Welcome to this complete Boxcutter and machine tools beginners tutorial. Today, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about Boxcutter, how to use it, the essential shortcuts, and most importantly, how to combine it with machine tools to create a pro-level workflow. But wait, that's not all. As a bonus, we'll be modeling a perfect Sci-Fi terminal from scratch, so you can see these techniques applied in a real-world project. This is a complete package to master Boxcutter and machine tools, designed just for you. Give your full attention and I promise you won't see Blender the same way again. Let's go. Chapter 1. Installation. Alright, before we dive into modeling, let's get your system set up with Boxcutter and machine tools in Blender 4.3. First, head down to the description. You'll find the links to purchase and download both add-ons. Once you have them, save the file somewhere safer on your system drive. Now, open Blender and go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, click the Install button, and in Blender 4.3, you'll need to click the little arrow key to access your file system. Navigate to your downloaded file. Select Machine Tool and click Install Add-on. Within a second, it will be installed. Just make sure to check the little box to activate it. Repeat the same process for Boxcutter. Locate the file, install it, and activate it. Chapter 2. Setup. Now, let's set up the add-ons. First, locate the machine tool add-on in your preferences and expand it. Follow along as I enable the features you need. Check Smart Vertex and Smart Edge. We don't need Smart Face. Not this one, not this one. Then enable Mirror and Align tool. Skip over the option you don't need. Yeah, not this. And finally, make sure Thread is activated because that's essential for our workflow. Next, we'll configure the Pie menu. Enable Save Pie, View Pie, and Alignment Pie, which is really awesome. And most importantly, enable Tools Pie, as this will connect with Boxcutter. I'll show you how to use it later in this video. Once you've done that, hit Save Preference to lock your settings. There's one more setting we need to change, the key map. You'll find it under the machine tool settings. Here, we need to adjust the mirror tool shortcut to Alt plus X, just like in Hotdogs. But if you already have Hotdogs installed, you can skip this step. Next, I'll set cleanup to the dot key for quick access. Now, save your settings one more time and just close the preference window. Now, let's set up the Boxcutter for optimal use. To activate the add-on, press Alt plus W. You'll see an activation message at the bottom of the screen, and a toolbar will appear at the top. This confirms that Boxcutter is active. To access the Boxcutter menu, press D. To exit the menu, simply left-click on an empty area of your screen. To deactivate the add-on, press W. So to recap, Alt plus W activates Boxcutter, D opens the menu, and W deactivates it. Now, let's tweak a few settings. With Boxcutter active, click on the settings icon in the top toolbar. Expand the input section and enable right mouse button to cancel. This allows you to cancel a cut mid-operation by right-clicking. Next, click on the magnet icon in the Boxcutter menu to access snapping tool settings. Enable the snapping tools and adjust the snap grid value from 0.25 to 0.2. This fine-tunes the snapping behavior for more precise cut. Once you've made this adjustment, go to File, Defaults, Save Startup File to save these settings. Ensure they apply every time you open Blender. Chapter 3. Basics. I'm going to cover all the basics, tools, and shortcut keys you need to master. First, there are three types of cutters: circle, square, and n-gon. The circle cutter is ideal for creating circular cuts. The square cutter for rectangle or box-shaped cuts. And the n-gon cutter acts like a free-form line tools, allowing you to create any shape you need. Next, let's learn how to perform a cut. Simply select your object and left-click to draw the desired shape. When you release the mouse, the shape is confirmed. Moving your cursor downwards deepens the cut. And a second, left-click or pressing enter finalize the operation. If you need to cancel the cut mid-operation, just right-click. It will abort the process. What if you want to rotate your object during a live cut? You can hold the middle mouse button and move your mouse to view all direction. Alternatively, if holding the button is uncomfortable, press the tab key during the operation to pause the cutter. It puts the cutter in a waiting state. To resume, press E or move your cursor near to the cutter and drag the white dots to adjust. Listen carefully to this instruction to ensure you fully grasp the workflow. Next, let's explore the 3 modes in Boxcutter. First, perform a cut by drawing a shape, move it in, and before confirming, press X. You'll notice the cutter turns into yellow, meaning it has entered slice mode. When you press enter, your mesh is split into separate pieces. This allows you to resize or modify the new selection independently. Now, let's move on to the next mode. Perform another cut, but this time press K. The cutter now turns blue, indicating knife mode. If you press enter, nothing seems to happen. But when you switch to edit mode, you will see a new edge following the shape of your cutter. Just like using a knife tool to create guide edges. Finally, the last mode is something we've already seen. Boolean cuts mode. Perform a cut and press X again to slicing through the modes. When it returns to its default state, it functions as a Boolean operation, cutting through the mesh as expected. That's it. These 3 modes, slice, knife and Boolean cut, give you power control over how you modify your objects. Next, let's learn about operations. Before we begin, let me switch my cutter mode to Boolean. By the way, you can quickly change mode using Boxcutter D menu. The first operation we'll explore is bevel. While performing a live cut, press B to bevel the corners. Moving your mouse up and down allows you to switch between chamfer and bevel. It's a great tool to add smoothness and realism to your cut. Next is array modifier. While in the cutter, press V to activate array mode. Move your mouse to adjust the spacing between duplicates and press X to switch axis direction. But wait, there is more. If you press V again, it activates radial array, which creates a circular pattern of cut. Let me show you with an example. I'll hold Ctrl to snap to the center, make a circular cut, move it inward, then press V twice to activate the radial array. Moving the mouse adjusts the radial placement. That's how you apply array and bevel operation in Boxcutter. Next, let's explore more operation. Now, let's look at the solidify modifier. As usual, I'll make a cut somewhere here, and once the cut is placed, I press T to activate solidify. Moving the mouse allows me to adjust the thickness. This is a great way to add depth and detail to your model. Next is extrusion. If you are using N-gon cutter, you'll notice that you can push the cut inside like a regular cutter. The solution? Press E to extrude your cutter manually. This is especially useful for freeform shapes. And finally, we have the wrench cut. First, run a cutter and extrude it inward, then press W to activate the wrench operation. Notice how it creates a cool insert shape. This is a great way to add more mechanical details to your model. That wraps up all the Boxcutter operation. Now, let's move on to the next part. Now, let's go over some essential navigation control in Boxcutter. Scaling the cutter. If your cutter is too big and you don't want to redo it, simply press S to scale it up or down. Moving the cutter. To reposition the cutter without cancelling, press G to grab and move it anywhere you like. Rotating the cutter. Need to rotate the shape? Just press R and it will rotate smoothly. That's it. This simple shortcut will help you to quickly adjust your cutter without starting over. Now let's combine all the tools we've learned. This is how you truly master Boxcutter. First, run a box cut, press B to apply bevel, then E to extrude it, T to solidify the cutter, and V to add an array. Move your mouse to adjust the separation, then hit enter. It might sound complicated, but once you get familiar with it, everything will feel natural. And I really like this line, so I'll share it with you. If you want to master any skill, you have to practice it so many times that you get bored of doing it. To start, I'll add a cube and scale it on the Z-axis and then scale it down on the Y-axis. This will form the terminal screen. The thickness feels a bit much, so I'll push it in slightly. After applying the scale, I'll rotate it 90 degrees on the X-axis. Then in edit mode, I'll select these two edges and apply a bevel with 4 to 5 segments. switch back to object mode. I'll use machine tool mirror function Alt+X to mirror it and then move it upward. Now, I'll rotate the screen 45 degrees on the y-axis and apply auto smooth shading. I'm going to face mode to insert the face, but it doesn't work as expected. So instead, I'll run a box cut operation, but before that, it's important to change the orthographic view from local to nearest edge. Press Shift+V to access this menu. Now, I'll draw a square something like this. Press X twice or use K to switch to knife mode and hit enter. In face mode, I'll select this middle face, extrude it, then bevel the surrounding edges. Thin chamfer for better detailing. I'll select all the surrounding edges and apply a minimal chamfer to create a subtle welded effect. Next, I'll add a cylinder, flip it and scale it down and position it on the side. After adjusting the size with S and Y, I'll apply the shade smooth, go to edge mode, I'll then scale it again slightly smaller and add a loop cut and bevel it. Using Alt+E, I'll extrude along normal, move it inward, insert the face and extrude it. To refine the detailing, I'll select these two edges and apply a very small chamfer for highlight edges. Finally, I'll mirror the object. Select both faces in face mode, insert them, right click, go to loop tools and use bridge to connect them seamlessly. Now, I'll insert the face, extrude along the normal and scale it down on the y-axis. Selecting these edges here, I'll press Ctrl+B to apply a bevel, then grab the outer edges and run a small chamfer. This instantly gives our model that mechanical feel. Time to add some detailings to the cylinder. First, I'll enable the magnet icon and snapping grid in the Boxcutter toolbar to ensure precise snapping. Switching the cutter type to circle, pressing X switch between the boolean modes. I'll hold Ctrl while dragging the cut, making cutted snap very perfect to the center. I'll scale it down and press D twice to activate radial array. Let's make it smaller and I'll rotate the view to check if everything is aligned. Then press E to insert the cut and hit enter. A clean pattern emerges, but I feel like it should go even deeper, so I'll enable the cutter from the collection, scale it up on the y-axis and check the result. Much better than I expected. Now, moving to the back. I'll cut a rectangle in this area and E for extrusion and X for slice mode. Selecting this new piece, I'll scale it down slightly to reveal more detail. To enhance the highlight, I'll select these two edges and apply a tiny chamfer. Looks epic. Now let's structure the screen. Right now, it's completely flat. So, in face mode, I'll select all the faces and press F to convert them as one. Then, I'll insert extrude along normal, bring it down and scale it down with S. Finally, I'll select all sharp edges and run a chamfer. Looks decent, doesn't it? Next, let's introduce some details to the side view. I'll start by adding a shape from this side, press X, but I notice the cutter isn't covering the model completely. I'll press S, ZZ to scale it up, then hit enter. It still needs to be fine-tuning. So I'll enable the cutter from the collection, move it in slightly down. There we go. Now selecting the screen, I'll press Q, then hit small apply. Jump into edit mode. I'll select these two edges and run a chamfer. That looks perfect. So now let's start building the body of our terminal. I'll add a cube, scale it down on the x-axis and also adjust the y-axis slightly to match the proportions. Moving it into place, I'll scale it up on the z-axis, something like this, and rotate it to match the screen orientation. But I still feel like the placement could be better. let me try a different angle. So I'll rotate it on the opposite direction and adjust the position again. That fits perfectly. Now, now I'll enable the cutter, switch to front view and choose an end-on cutter, draw a cut on this side and I'll move it up, fill the cutter and hit enter. Next, I'll mirror the changes, switch the cutter type to box, I'll draw a square at the center, apply a bevel and cut it. Now let's add some cuts at the top. So I'll draw a shape like this and bevel it and apply the cut. That was a great idea. To finalize the structure, I select everything and smart apply. In edit mode, I'll select this edge, press GG to slide it upward. Finally, I'll run a smooth bevel. And that looks solid. The bottom looks a bit shorter, so let's move it slightly down and I'll select all these edges and run a chamfer. But be careful not to extend it too much or else it might get collapsed. I'll do the same to the other side. Apply minimal chamfer. Next, for the side view, I'll add a large cutout. I'll draw a rectangle, bevel it and hit enter. Looking at the proportions, I feel like the body needs to be a bit shorter, so I'll hold the shift key and slowly reduce its size. Bring it inward and yeah, that looks better. Now let's start by adding detail. I'll run a rectangle cut on this side, align it properly, slice it and apply the cut. Now I'll scale it down the slice piece. There is some garbage geometry left, so I'll clean it up. Select the cylinder, go to edge mode, select the nearby edge and press F to fill the face. Instead of leaving it flat, I insert, extrude and run a chamfer to make it visually appealing. You could add even more detail to make it interesting. I'll add a horizontal cut, press V twice for circular pattern, extrude it with E and apply bevel and confirm the cut. That's a nice detail. Now let's finish blocking out the structure. I'll add another cube, make it taller and wider just enough for proper cut and move it slightly down, extend it a bit more. I'll go to the side view, adjust the size to match the top. Now it's ready to be cut. To sculpt the shape, I'll switch to N-gon mode. Draw a cross and let me think, I'll try to move it down. Then draw a straight line and apply the cut. Next, we'll cut from this angle, creating an interesting shape and confirm the cut. We are almost done with blockout. I'll move the object slightly to the right side and use Boxcutter to clean up the extra meshes. Now, I'll press Q and smart apply. I notice a wastage, so let's remove it. Then I'll select this edge, move it up slightly and apply a smooth curve bevel. Now, I'll select this one and apply a large bevel. We are just refining the overall shape. So, lastly, I'll select the bottom edge and apply a bevel as well. The sides are looking too sharp, almost like a blade. So, we'll select all the lines and run a chamfer. Then mirror the changes. This makes the model looks more balanced. There is an edge that has also lost its sharpness, so let's go into edit mode, select the edge, right click and choose mark sharp. Now back to beveling. Select this area and apply a bevel. We don't want our model to look flat, which is why these bevels are important. Here, I want to create some openings, so I will run a box cut and deepens it. Next, I will select the bottom body, switch to N-gon mode, draw a custom shape similar to the one at the top and cut it. The chamfer has collapsed, so to fully reveal it, We need to extend the size until the chamfer appears clean. I'll move the object slightly to the right side. There is a small piece getting revealed, so I'll just cut it. At the bottom, I was planning to add something, but then I thought, what if I just duplicate the cylinder from the top and place it here? Turns out, it works perfectly. The only adjustment we needed is resizing it to fit. By the way, we apply the open window technique. The right side remains a clean, empty shell, but the left side reveals mechanism, adding depth and realism. You can enhance this by adding cables, pipe, switches, or more other components to the right side in order to feel it look like more complicated. For now, I'll just keep it simple, but I might explore this concept in future videos. Interestingly, the cylinder doesn't just add details to the back but also enhance the front, an added bonus. Now, select the object, I'll enter edit mode, pick the loop edges and apply a bevel. If the bevel looks uneven, it might be due to the mirror modifier, so I'll apply it first and retry. Yep, that works. Now, I'm looking for a spot to add more details. Why not duplicate the cylinder again and use it as a screw on the side? Sounds like a crazy idea, but let's try it. So, move it down, that's cool. Select both the screws and bring it outside. Next, use the N-gun cutter. I will follow the existing shape, draw a cut, press X to switch to slice mode and execute the cut. Finally, I'll smooth apply and slightly scale the piece to make it a bit wider. There's something off with the body, so let's apply all booleans and check what's going on. Yeah, the cutter went too deep. To fix this, select both face, extrude them and hold shift while moving for precise adjustment. Now, select these four edges, run a chamfer, just a small level of detail. Next, where should we add details? Let me see. Maybe a small circular cut on this area, just like a screw holes. Then back looks too empty, so let's do something about it. We can run a circular cut, move it all the way down and mirror the change. Now these edges corners looks too sharp, so let's select all and run a chamfer. See our small chamfer change the entire appearance. Moving to the back, let's run a box cut, something like a rectangle. Press B for small bevel, T to solidify and V to apply an array. Increase the count, adjust the separation and maybe a duplicate works best. Place it and confirm the cut. There are some shading issues with this cutter, so let's fix them. Adding geometry will help. I'll insert some loop cuts and increase the count. That solved the issue. Let maybe just add loop cuts in horizontal and mirror the changes. Actually the array is combined, but it actually looks pretty good, so I'll leave it as it is. Finally, let's add another rectangle cut, apply an array, press X to change the axis and hit enter to confirm the cut. Now, let's move to the back. Face looks too flat, so select all the edges and run a chamfer. I initially planning to add some mechanical elements, but that would make it more advanced. To keep these guides minimal and easy to follow, I'll go with a simpler approach. Instead of leaving an empty space, we can just add a circular cutout. This creates a circular outline which is more balanced the design, instead of just leaving the empty space. At this stage, we are focusing on tertiary detailing, so we'll add a very small cuts and holes to increase its contrast and shading in the final render. I'll just randomly performing cuts here, but keep in mind that small cuts like this make a huge impact. To finalize the modeling, we'll perform an N-gun cut. I'll follow the existing shape and draw the cut. This technique is known as echo detailing, reinforcing the design language. After that, apply some bevel, extrude and confirm the cut. Now the model has more mechanical and refined shell. And that's how you design a sci-fi terminal from scratch using Boxcutter and machine tool. I hope this guide helped you to understand Boxcutter workflow and some essential techniques. If you watch the full guide, that's awesome. Your skill and knowledge will improve significantly because you're leveraging technique from my experience. But remember, just watching isn't enough. You need to practice what you learn and keep working on project. So keep learning and I'll be back soon with more.